Okay, once again, good morning and happy Friday. And just heads up, this session is being recorded and we will place our recording on our YouTube channel. Uh, so with our topic of discussion, it's authentication and authorization in Azure App Service. And we are gonna be specifically talking about uh, what we call easy auth. And what is known in app service as easy auth. And we will talk about it. There's a V2 available now, and we will discuss it. What are some of the things to watch out, what it does, and how you can take advantage of it. So here is a quick agenda. What is this feature? Why you should use it? And that's as I said. And then we will see a quick demo. So first of all, this is the built-in authentication. It used to be known as Easy Auth in the beginning, and still its code name is kind of Easy Auth is used. Why? First thing to keep in mind is you don't have to make a single code change. You you can write code or you don't have to add any libraries, and we will talk about it. There is a need for libraries if you're doing certain things, but you don't need to do anything in your code. This authentication happens outside of your code. And just keep in mind, just want to do a level set. Authentication is who you are. Authorization is what you can do with what you are, you know. So that's authentication piece happens outside. It happens in the app service slash function, which runs on app service subsystem. Okay, and we will look at the flow and by the way, the behavior is slightly different between Linux app service and Windows app service, and there are certain things that are different, but we will worry about it when we in the next few slides. But at this moment, the key capabilities that it provide, it kind of you're outsourcing the authentication to app service. Provide certain providers, certain kind of authentication support certain authentication providers, like of course Azure AD, Facebook, and Google. So you can use those and do the authentication, and you can have multiple providers as well if you want. And sorry, folks, if you are not speaking, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Um, and finally, um, you can have you can use the libraries either from the provider or whatever libraries that are available as a part of the framework that you are using. It's .NET or Node.js to get the claims out, and that another thing that we will discuss. So first of all, these are the available providers which are available that you can use. And there is a public preview going on for OpenID Connect, as well as I saw Apple, which is not in the list, is also there for public preview. And when we talk about the Microsoft Identity Platform, this covers Azure AD as well as it covers Microsoft email like Outlook.com and things like that. Okay, and this basically just a few things to keep in mind. Whenever you enable this feature, you will be directed to HTTPS of version of your site. And if you don't want that, you turn it off. Just keep in mind you don't want these tokens going over a unencrypted channel. That would be, in my opinion, is a bad idea. So just you know, you can restrict once you enable this, and we will look in the demo as well in a few minutes. If you enable this authentication, you can do it two ways. You can say yes, allow unauthenticated user to come in, or you can say that block unauthenticated access at all. So basically, if somebody is trying to get in and your site says only authenticated user, they will be thrown out. Basically, they will get 403. Um, and this is a quick summary of the flow. Um, you will, once you try to access the site, it sends you to a generic path.auth dash login slash based on what your provider is. When you sign in, it gets the provider redirects to this callback URL. That's where app service inject those cookies in your code. And once those cookies are there, then, and by the way, the path is slightly different if you are using the provider SDK. So there are SDKs available from the provider, but just in general, it's pretty much the same. And then client can use the authentication cookie for further to get further tokens from the service. So that a client can do that. Okay. Um, so this is kind of at a high level behavior. If you are authenticated versus not authenticated, just keep in mind if you have a SPA, you should allow unauthenticated requests. Otherwise, your app will not work because SPA is a single page app. There is no redirection. Okay, so that's something you definitely should keep in mind. And we will come to these pages, and these are the two claims that it adds. MS client principal name, MS client principal ID. Those two claims are added, and then you can use it. One thing to keep in mind, if you're using ASP.NET, it will populate the claims principal. So you can do authorization directly without any code change. In the case of ASP.NET Core, it does not do it automatically. You have to use a third-party library. There's a link in the document for that library. With that, you should be able to use that, for authorization. Okay. Um, so that's basically accessing the user claims and all that information. And finally, how you can retrieve. These are the tokens that are available from provider that you can see in your code. And by the way, we'll come back to the slides as we look into the demo. So let's start with a quick demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a web app. Okay, let's start with a web app. We're going to call it, okay, and I'm going to use a .NET 5. And by the way, I can use anything, but just for the sake of simplicity, I mean, that's the language I love, and that's the platform I love, and that's what I'm going to use. And with that, I'm not going to change anything since we are just considering the authentication. So I'm going to create this. It will take a second. And because I just want to start from a fresh application, so just to show like, how this thing behaves. So give it a second. And since it's a demo, it's gonna take a second. So let me, oh yeah, it's created. Okay. So the web app is created. And by the way, first of all, any questions at this point? Okay. So if you see here, there are two experiences. This is the V1 experience. If I turn on, this is how it looks. Allow anonymous access, and then you have, and you can definitely use it. Let's discard it. And this is the authentication V2 experience. It starts with adding an identity provider. To me, it is more streamlined. I mean, the previous one, sometime it's kind of the too many choices on the screen, it throws you off. Here, you clearly start from an identity provider. So I like this interface. Just a caution, once you start using this one, you cannot go back to Classic. If you are using Classic, you can upgrade to this one. So if I'm using Classic, I can come here and use the V2. So, but if I'm using this experience that we have here, and I try to go back to the classic one, no, sir, I won't be able to do it. So that's the thing. So let's start with a identity provider, and I'm going to start with Microsoft. So this is the question it will ask. Create a new app registration, pick an existing one. I'm just going to use this one. This is the name that it's going to use. Okay, this is very important. Do you want to sign it only to the current tenant? Do you want to use Azure, any Azure Active Directory? So that's where you have to decide which user you are trying to give access to. Is it just your tenant, which is attached to this subscription? In this case, I have my demo tenant, NZ Azure Demo. So do I want to give it access to, or everyone, or any Active Directory and personal Microsoft account, or personal Microsoft account only? So this is personal Microsoft accounts you will use if you just want to, with Outlook.com or Hotmail.com, to give them access to this site. So this is once again important question, like, and that will dictate how you wanna uh, give access to this. Okay, so I'm just gonna say I'm gonna do um, just the current tenant. That's what I'm gonna use. And that's important. Require authentication or allow unauthenticated access. If you require authentication, it's gonna make it authenticate. Otherwise, it's gonna allow unauthenticated access. Pretty simple. And then it's a redirect from website. It's a three found, so what you wanna do, um, pretty much. And then the next part is permissions. So this is like at this moment, the only permission you are making is, hey, let it read from the user.read. Sign in and read. So the user on with this applications on the user's behalf will be able to sign in and read the user profile. That's all it will be able to do. Once again, the consent will be required. That's very important. Without the user's consent, this application will not be able to take, and you will see once we deploy this application. Okay, and let's add this. We'll add this identity provider, and a few things will happen. This is the client ID. So let's take a look here. Let's go to Azure Active Directory. Just to prove the point, if we go in here, if we go into the app registrations, um, we will see here, okay, I clicked on the wrong thing, app registration, all application. If I type in, this is the identity that it has created. And with that, you can go in and you can modify it here. So a number of cases you will do the initial part over there. And if you need customization, you will come in here to do the customization. Okay. So let's go back to our application. And what I'm going to do is um, I am going to, and by the way, you can edit this as well. So I can go in here and I can say, what is, what I can or cannot do with this thing. So this is, important stuff that you can take care of here. Okay, so let's go back here to the app, and these are the authentication settings. So this is saying require authentication. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to browse this site. Let's see what happens. Okay, it is asking me to sign in. So just keep in mind I'm already signed into the portal with my Azure admin ID. So it will just let me sign in, and just let you know it will show you the um, vanilla site. So let's sign in. Okay, so this is the vanilla site that's showing up. We are not showing anything. We haven't deployed any site. This is the basic default site showing up. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in SCM. Okay. SCM, if you're not familiar with it, um, be familiar. This is the kind of the twin of your website. This gives you, it is known as Kudu. It gives you administrative information about your website. So this is, as you can see, um, this a lot of information there. Probably another session is warranted to cover this, but what I am going to show you here is uh, this is the some of the stuff um, that is available. We're going to go to the environment because other stuff we are not interested in. We are interested in HTTP headers. We saw it in the deck that if you are going through app service authentication, it will add certain headers. And look, voila, those two headers are here. Okay, so those two headers are here. I can use those headers to, populate names. So basically, in my web app, I can check if those headers are there, or I mean, I can be more sophisticated using the SDK that if the user is authenticated, I can get further information and populate that page accordingly. Okay, all of these things I can definitely do. I don't have to write a single line of code to to do any authentication. All of it is outsourced at this point. Okay. Um, so this is kind of very simple. We did, as you can see, we didn't write the code, anything. It just, the headers just show up and we can access those headers with appropriate language that we are going to be using. Okay. Any questions?
Hey, Navid, just a quick question. So to actually get those information, do we just use the headers, like any of the, let's say, call the claims information from whoever the user who logged in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The application kind of make use of them. Like that needs a change, right, in the code?
If you want to use the header, if you just say, okay, only authenticated user can access, then you don't have to make any code change. Only authenticated user will come in. But of course, I think you want to do a little bit more. So yes, in that case, you will have to have code, some code. And by the way, that code you will always need no matter what you do, because you have to deal with claims. So in this case, you will be dealing with these claims.
I-
Okay.
And how do you
Claims
access
principle.
them? Is it the same way? Like, is it just through the headers
Claims
or
principle. Claims principle.
yep, through the claims
Okay.
principle? All right, cool.
Yeah, to the claim principle. Okay. In certain languages, there are different frameworks, there are different ways. For example, in Java, they are available as Tomcat environment variable. Okay. In PHP, I think they are available as an environment variable. I don't remember. So there would be, so whatever language you are using, whatever method you have to get those claims, they will come through that. Okay, except .NET Core, where you have to add a library. Okay, it is very well documented. Look at the links towards the end, and it talks about what library you have to use.
Awesome, awesome. And that can be used to kind of set up a session and stuff like that. All right, awesome. Thanks, Navid.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So that's that piece. Okay, so we saw that. What if let's go back to our application and some more interesting stuff. Let me go to the resource group, and I have some pre-baked cookies, so let's take a look at those. So this one is another app that I have created. And by the way, uh, yes, you see that? Once I have done, just want to show you, I cannot use Classic anymore since I have done the V2. Okay, let's go back here. I have
Hey,
three
Navi,
providers. Yes,
Navi.
go ahead.
you're sharing your screen?
We're not seeing your screen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. What's happening, man? Why are they sharing? Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen one more time. Uh, so nobody can see my screen?
No.
No,
Oh,
we
okay,
can't,
okay.
Naveen.
Give me 1 second. Let me just stop sharing and let me start sharing. Oh, interesting. Very weird. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry guys, sorry for the technical interruption. I have no idea what happened. Um, Somehow I'm like doing two machines, so I think there's something wrong. Um, okay, so as you can see, there are three um, providers: Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. What I can do is I can do it two ways. I can go in here and pick the appropriate provider. So I can say sign in with Google, okay? And I can just save it. And what I will do is I'm gonna open it and I'm going to browse to the site. So let's see what happens. So this, okay, by the way, I'm already logged into Google account, so that's why it didn't prompt me for sign in. Okay, this is my Chrome browser. I'm already logged into Google. That's why. So don't be alarmed. Nothing, uh, happening here. It's only that since I'm signed in, and that's why it's showing me a client principal name, and this is client principal ID. That's all there is to it. So same, both the cookies are available here, but the reason you did not see the sign in prompt because I'm already signed in. Okay, so that's the authentication. We have 7 more minutes, so let's quickly cover authorization. As I said, so let's take a look at another app that I have here. I'm gonna go in here and I have this MVC app. So this app, once again, .NET, but it doesn't matter. It is using an authorized attribute. And let me just for a second show you the code. And once again, um, as I said, I am using .NET because I am comfortable with it. You can use your own same methodology will apply there. As you can see here, there is no authorization tag. The only thing you cannot get to is this signed in index. Okay, so that's where you will need authorization. Okay, so let's see how that works with this particular app. So this is the app. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this and I am going to go into a private window and I'm going to open this URL. Okay, it took me, yeah, since I can access all everywhere, I can go to any site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to for signed in user. It says 401 HTTP error doesn't allow me to go there. What I'm going to do is and by the way, that's where I'm using that ASP.NET Core module but from third party to access it. So let me just sign in. Okay. Okey-doke. And the next thing is the MFA. Give me 1 second. Okay, verify. Yes, stay sign in. And now, so as you can see, I'm just displaying the name here. If you look in we look in the code, the only thing I'm passing is I'm passing the name claim in username and in this signed in index CHTML, I'm just showing this data. So that's all I'm doing. That's why the name shows up there. But the point is, once again, as I go in, I can uh, now I can access any page. This once it's signed in, I can access it. No issues are there. So this is the authorization piece where you are taking that cookie and using it in claims principle to basically decide what user. And by the way, same way you can pass in roles. So if the user has roles, application roles from Azure AD, they can be passed in. So you can basically check if he's an admin role or a user role. And by the way, these are custom role I'm talking about. So all of these things you can control. Just all of these things will be passed in through the user identity. Okay, so that's basically how you can control it. Functions are no different. Same thing will happen. The claims principle and all will still apply to function. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Few things that I forgot to mention. You can have multiple logins. So you can have a website where you have a login page where you have multiple logins. Okay. And in that case, what will happen? For example, here, look at this link. If you, I hope everybody can. Let me just note that. This is the link that I have. So you can have a page with all the links for different providers. For example, here it will be instead of AD, Facebook. But just keep in mind, you should have those providers set up for your app. So when you have all of these set up, the people can come in and they will click on whatever provider they want to sign in, and then they will be redirected there, and that's how they will access the app. Okay, so yes, from the UI, if we go here in the site, it seems that you can only access one of the sorry, what was this one? Yeah, authenticated access. Let me just, no, it only have one provider. I think I need to go to the other one. 1 second. This is the, yeah, this one. So if we go in here, as you can see, since it has multiple providers, you can pick, but you can in your app, basically you can put it there. Okay, these are multiple providers, and then they can select whatever they provider they use to sign in, just like a number of sites you see, hey, sign in with your Microsoft ID or Google ID or Facebook ID or, go ahead, please, Naresh.
Hey, Navid, quick question. Sorry, probably missed the part you mentioned. How do we get the client ID and secret, which is listed right on the middle pane in the screen you are in?
Here.
Yeah, right there. Within the identity provider, if you say add provider,
Yeah.
then
Basically, there is a detailed procedure. Sorry, it is so for every provider is different. For AD, it does it automatically. Facebook, you have to create an app and get that ID and secret to set it up. Sorry, I mean that's kind of, I thought it's out of the scope of this discussion, but there is a way where you can go in and where you can set it up.
okay, sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, there was another question.
Hey, Navid, this is Srini here. This is still providing authentication, not authorization, right? Authorization is the application's responsibility, and
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it provides you the claim that you can
yeah,
use to authorize. But of course, authorization is the onus is on the application.
yeah.
We are right on time. Any other questions? Thank you, folks. That's all, and hope to see next week. Our friend Kaushik will be talking about Synapse, so I think it will be an excellent session. So please join us next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, Navid.
Thanks, Naveed. That
Thank
was
you.
great.